All right, now we're going to look at some limestones. And the thing about limestones is they have one thing in common, which is regardless of how they formed or what their appearance is, they all are going to react with the acid. And so here is a little drop of acid, and you can see that that is going to fizz up very strongly. Remember, after you fizz that up, you can blot it up right there and make sure that that doesn't make a mess. All right, so the first type of limestone we're going to look at is this one here, and this is called fossiliferous limestone, or fossil-bearing limestone, or a shell limestone. And you'll see fossils in it, but it's not all fossils. So there are some shells, there are some fossils, but there's a lot of cement, a lot of calcite cement in there. Now, if it's all fossils, then it would be this thing right here, and this is known as coquina. And coquina is all fossils. It's just like a fossil hash here. It's 100% fossils, barely cemented together. You can see lots of open spaces. This one would strongly react to the acid, lots of little surfaces there. And so this one is just all shells crushed up, stuck back together, and very popular one because it's easy to identify. Kind of looks like shredded wheat, okay? Now, here's another variety of fossil limestones here, and this one is called chalk. And the thing about chalk is it's made of fossils, but they're microscopic in size. They're very teeny tiny. It gets on your hands, it's chalky, it fizzes really big. So it's got a lot of little surface areas in there to allow the fizz to happen. And it's pretty easy to identify because it's just chalky. It just feels like chalk and it comes off on your hands. It actually is a little bit rough though, so that's a clue that it might be chalk instead of, say, kaolinite, some other chalky looking stuff. Now, if it's a little stronger put together, this is known as a micrite or a micrite, and this is a pretty hard, well assembled, doesn't come off in your hands so easily, piece of limestone. But it's very fine grained. You don't see any fossils in it for the most part. It's just a compact limestone. You'll notice it does have a pretty good conchoidal fracture. So that is a key of micrite. Now, here's another option here. This is a type known as oolitic limestone. And what oolitic limestone is, it's composed of these tiny little round balls. I've got a container with some of these little round balls right here. And these are known as ooids or ooliths. And they are just teeny tiny round balls of calcite that form on the floor of the ocean as it gets kind of agitated around. And they're typically inorganic, and they may actually be formed around individual little sand grains. And they can build up and form oolitic limestone. And if you want to see some great oolitic limestone, look no further than the RCTC campus, because there's several large pieces of art outside the sports center that are made of oolitic limestone. And it's very similar to this stuff here. So that's oolitic limestone. Another type of limestone is called travertine. And this is what travertine looks like. Again, it's porous, usually forms either in caves or as a result of inorganic processes around hot springs or geysers, places like that. And it's often, in some places anyway, cut and made into stone for building stones, tiles, walls, things like that. So also made of calcite though. And a special version of that would be something like these here. These are bits of speleothems, also known as stalactites, and stalagmites and cave bacon and all kinds of other cave formations. And these are ones that I'm not sure where they came from, but I'm pretty sure they came from Minnesota somewhere, since they were found in a collection here in Minnesota. And you can see the crystalline nature of these and how they kind of grew outward and gradually over a long period of time. So these are also a form of limestone, a form of limestone that's made of calcite. Now, I should also mention that any number of these types could also be made of dolomite. And this is a piece of dolomite or dolostone. And in that case, the mineral is not calcite, but rather dolomite. in which case it will react, but only a little bit. So if you look at that, you can see a little bit of fizz here, but really not too much. See, as it spills down there, you get a little bit of fizz, but it's pretty weak. So if you think that something might be a form of limestone and it doesn't really fizz, look closely, and it may be some type of dolostone. And we think that that happens after formation, that there's some kind of diagenetic process that turns it from regular limestone into dolostone or dolomite, but we're not 100% sure what that is. All right, those are some of the different types of limestone.